Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will offer an update on the case of Jason Corbett. He is the subject of a documentary on Netflix titled A Deadly American Marriage. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Jason Paul Corbett was born on February 12, 1976, and lived in Limerick, Ireland. He had 4 brothers and 2 sisters. Jason worked for an international packaging company as a plant manager. He married a woman named Margaret, who went by the name Mags. They had 2 children together, Jack and Sarah. In November 2006, Jason's wife died unexpectedly. This was just 11 weeks after she gave birth to Sarah. Her cause of death was listed as an asthma attack, but several experts would later cast doubt on that explanation. Despite this doubt, there is no evidence pointing to foul play. After his wife's death, Jason placed an advertisement for a nanny. In April 2008, a woman named Molly Page Martins responded to the ad. Molly was from Knoxville, Tennessee. Her father, Tom, was a retired FBI agent. He, along with Molly's mother, Sharon, raised Molly and her 3 brothers. Molly attended college, but dropped out after developing mononucleosis. In 2007, she became engaged, but the relationship disintegrated. In March 2008, when she was 24 years old, she moved to Limerick, Ireland. As I mentioned, she answered Jason's ad the next month. Even though the relationship between Jason and Molly started off as a business arrangement, they quickly became romantically involved. On February 14, 2010, the couple became engaged. The company Jason worked for transferred him to a plant in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. In May 2011, the family moved into a 3,400 square foot 5-bedroom house at 160 Panther Creek Court. On June 4, 2011, Jason and Molly married in Tennessee, where Molly's family members lived. The marriage was tumultuous. The couple frequently argued. One area of conflict was Molly's relationship with Jason's children. She considered herself to be their mother, but Jason would not allow her to adopt his children. He kept telling Molly that he would arrange an adoption, but then he would drag his feet and make up excuses. He never honored his commitment. Both Jason and Molly spoke to attorneys about divorce and the custody situation. In an effort to gain leverage in future divorce and custody proceedings, Molly started secretly audio recording Jason. Allegedly, there were recording devices in their house and in Jason's vehicle. The devices captured several arguments between the couple, which made Jason appear to be the aggressor. Jason told various people that he was thinking about leaving Molly and taking his children, Jack and Sarah, back to Ireland. Molly was aware that if he did this, she would have no chance of gaining custody. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On Saturday, August 1, 2015, Molly's parents, Tom and Sharon Martins, drove from Tennessee to North Carolina to visit the Corbett family house on Panther Creek Court. So, at this time, there were 6 people in the house: Tom and Sharon, Jason and Molly, and Jason's children, Jack and Sarah. On Sunday, August 2, 2015, at 3:02 a.m., Tom Martins called 911 and said his son-in-law, Jason, engaged in a fight with his daughter, Molly. He said, "I intervened and hit him in the head." The operator said, "With what?" Tom responded, "With a baseball bat." After this, Tom indicated that Jason was in bad shape and said, quote, "I may have killed him," unquote. The operator instructed Tom and Molly to perform CPR until help arrived. When the police arrived at the Corbett family house, they discovered that 39-year-old Jason Corbett was dead. Here is what the police found during the course of their investigation. Jason's body was in the master bedroom. His body was cold and naked. Jason had sustained at least 12 blows to his head and had skull fractures. Neither Tom nor Molly had any injuries, which seemed strange considering their claim about being in a life-and-death physical struggle. The police noticed that Molly kept vigorously rubbing her neck as if she was trying to make it look like she had been strangled. Molly's mother, Sharon, told the police that she and her husband, Tom, were sleeping in the guest bedroom. This bedroom was in the basement. The master bedroom, where Jason and Molly slept, was on the first floor. In the middle of the night, Sharon heard her daughter scream. When Tom went to investigate, Sharon went back to sleep. Some people might find a horrific scream in the dead of the night slightly disruptive, but not Sharon. She wasn't going to let a potential homicide in a nearby bedroom interrupt her sleep. You might say that she was a human snooze button. The police spoke to Tom. Here is the story that he supplied. Tom brought an aluminum baseball bat and a tennis racket as gifts for Jason's son, Jack. He would have given the gifts to Jack on Saturday. However, Jack returned home at 11 p.m. from a party at a friend's house, so Tom decided to wait until the following morning to give him the gifts. When Tom heard the scream, he grabbed the baseball bat and ran upstairs toward the master bedroom, which was the source of the sound. There he saw Jason with his hands around Molly's neck. Tom told Jason to let Molly go. Jason replied, quote, "I'm going to kill her," unquote. At this point, Jason started dragging Molly toward the bathroom. Tom did not want Jason to reach the bathroom, fearing that he would close the door and kill Molly. He struck Jason with the baseball bat, but it had no effect. Therefore, Tom continued striking him. Despite this, Jason made it to the bathroom, but he did not close the door. Instead, he charged out of the bathroom, wrestled the bat out of Tom's hands, and pushed Tom to the floor. When Tom made it back to his feet, he regained control of the baseball bat from Jason and repeatedly struck Jason in the head. Molly told the police that Jason had been struggling with anger issues and becoming progressively worse. He would have outbursts triggered by trivial matters. Earlier that night, he became angry at Molly after his daughter Sarah woke them up. Sarah had become frightened by designs on her bed sheets. When Molly defended Sarah's behavior, Jason told Molly to shut up and then started strangling her. This is when Tom intervened with the baseball bat. During the part of the struggle when Tom was pushed to the floor, Molly struck Jason with a paving brick. Tom claimed that he did not witness Molly do this, something the authorities found extremely difficult to believe. As the police continued to investigate, they learned that Jason had created a will in 2007. His sister Tracy Lynch and her husband were to be the legal guardians of his children, Jack and Sarah, in the event of his death. Jason did not change this directive even after marrying Molly. A few days after Jason died, Molly filed for custody of Jack and Sarah. Jason's family fought her in court. Ultimately, Jack and Sarah were placed in Tracy's custody, and she took them to Ireland. On January 6, 2016, Tom Martins and Molly Corbett were charged with second-degree murder and voluntary manslaughter. Their trial started in July 2017. On August 9, 2017, they were both convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 20 to 25 years in prison. In February 2020, their murder convictions were overturned on appeal, primarily due to the exclusion of statements made by Jack and Sarah. The children were interviewed by social services and said that Jason had mistreated Molly. Later, they recanted their statements, saying that Molly asked them to lie. The state intended on having a second trial, but Tom and Molly accepted a plea deal. On October 30, 2023, Tom pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter, and his daughter Molly pleaded no contest to the same charge. 10 days later, they were sentenced to 51 to 74 months in prison. On June 6, 2024, Tom and Molly were released from prison. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. According to Molly, Jason had mistreated her physically and emotionally. He would apologize after harming her, promising to change his behavior, but invariably he would become harmful again. Molly indicated that Jason was paranoid and controlling. He used the adoption issue as leverage over Molly. He knew that she desperately wanted to adopt Jack and Sarah. Molly said that Jason would sometimes put his hands around her neck before or during sex. There is no way to know if Molly was telling the truth. However, there is some evidence supporting her assertions. For example, she made audio recordings of Jason where he was mistreating her, and 2 weeks before his death, Jason told a physician he had anger issues. There are also factors that contradict Molly's assertions. For example, no one ever saw bruises on Molly or any indication that Jason harmed her. She never reported any mistreatment to the authorities, and Molly did not appear to be frightened of Jason. She even made fun of his obesity. Item number 2. Several people indicated that Molly had a history of dishonesty. Here are a few examples of lies that Molly allegedly told. Molly claimed to be an Olympic swimmer, a Montessori teacher, and a foster parent. She claimed that she had bipolar disorder, had several miscarriages prior to meeting Jason, and was friends with Jason's first wife prior to her death. Molly told Jason's children that Jason had killed their mother. She coached Jack and Sarah to tell social services that Jason had physically and verbally mistreated her, and Molly claimed that she was Sarah's biological mother, even describing a difficult childbirth. The part where Molly had been Jason's nanny was omitted from her backstory. Instead, Molly claimed that she was working as an editor when they met in Ireland. Molly told people that she had a little sister who died from cancer. However, in reality, she did not have a sister. Item number 3. Tom and Molly maintain their innocence, and they have many supporters who argue that Jason was the aggressor. The state, of course, disagrees. They offered a plea bargain of voluntary manslaughter due to concerns over the strength of the evidence, but they still believed the couple was guilty of second-degree murder. This brings me to the question, were Tom and Molly guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence, both for and against the idea they were guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Tom struck Jason with a baseball bat, and Molly struck Jason with a paving brick. Jason was unarmed at this time. There is no question they caused his death. It seems incredibly convenient that Tom had a baseball bat handy and that Molly had a paving brick on her nightstand in her bedroom. Furthermore, Tom had canceled plans with someone else at the last minute to make the trip to North Carolina, which was unusual for him. Several people indicated that Molly had an extensive history of deceptive behavior. Jack and Sarah initially claimed that Jason had mistreated Molly, but they later recanted these statements, claiming that they were coached by Molly to lie. The ongoing disagreement about custody between Molly and Jason represented a motive for murder. Jason expressed an interest in returning to Ireland and transferring his financial assets to a bank there. Molly may have realized that if Jason moved, she would never get custody of the children. Jason's $600,000 life insurance policy could have been a motive as well. An autopsy revealed that trazodone was in Jason's system. He did not have a prescription for this drug, but Molly did. She was given the prescription 3 days before the incident. The brutal nature of Jason's killing points to overkill. Tom and Molly used more force than was necessary, even if they were initially acting in self-defense. Jason's body was cold when the police arrived. This makes it seem like Tom and Molly had taken some time to align their stories. Tom and Molly claim that they engaged in a prolonged physical altercation with a 260-pound man intent on harm, yet they managed to avoid any injuries. Tom did not have any blood on his hands despite claiming he performed CPR. Now moving to the exculpatory factors. There was some evidence supporting Molly's claim that she had been mistreated by Jason. Tom had an explanation for the baseball bat. It was a gift for Jack. Molly had an explanation for the paving brick being on her nightstand, saying that it was for some type of craft. She brought it inside the house because it was going to rain. Technically, the story that Tom and Molly supplied about the killing could have been true. Jason may have been the aggressor. Even though they later recanted, Jack and Sarah initially indicated that Jason had mistreated Molly. Maybe they were lying when they recanted and not lying during their initial statement. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Tom and Molly were guilty of murder? Yes. In my opinion, they were guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Early in her romance with Jason, Molly considered herself to be the mother of Jason's children, Jack and Sarah. When Jason did not allow her to adopt his children, Molly became angry and decided to pursue her goal of custody using a different method. She planted audio recording devices hoping to use Jason's outbursts against him in court. Molly managed to capture behavior that didn't look too good for Jason, but by this point, he was already planning to leave. Time was running out for Molly to make her big move. She decided to take a more definitive action. It's not clear exactly what she intended. Maybe she was just trying to gain leverage in an upcoming custody proceeding, or maybe she planned to murder Jason. Either way, she coordinated with her father, Tom, and they were ready to move forward with their plan during the early morning hours of August 2, 2015. Molly gave Jason trazodone before striking him in the head with a paving brick. This weapon sends a statement. Molly wanted Jason dead, but also wanted her driveway to look nice. It's murder with curb appeal. At this point, Tom stepped up to the plate with a baseball bat. Molly laid the foundation with the paving brick, and Tom knocked it out of the park. Together, they really covered all the bases. Molly and her father felt confident that people would believe their self-defense claim. They took some time to ensure alignment in their stories, but they were kind of lazy. It would have been easy to make up a narrative where only one of them killed Jason, like Tom. They could have placed the paving brick outside. Considering the police secured the baseball bat, and it was obviously used in the attack, it never would have occurred to them that another weapon was used. Instead, both Molly and Tom implicated themselves in the physical attack of Jason. Ultimately, due to a mistake by the court, their convictions were overturned and a plea deal was offered. Molly and Tom paid the price for the overkill component of the killing, but largely escaped responsibility for the murder part. Those are my thoughts on the case of Jason Corbett. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.